So back when I was in attendance at university, so in the 90s, no, I'm just kidding. I was heavily involved in church. Went to church every single Sunday. Every Thursday, we'd have a small group. Every Tuesday morning, we had the early morning prayer with this community that I was a part of. And we would just talk about the Bible, man. We just talk about the life of Jesus. We would invite people from our college campus, people in classes that we knew or had just met. We would even go out, we'd evangelize kind of some of the rougher areas, and we just talk about Jesus, man. So for 3 years, I was this small group leader at this church. These groups were like 10 to 15 people, and then within that, there's like 3 or 4 guys. That's our dog. There's like 3 or 4 guys that I would meet with each week. We talk about girls, we talk about, school, we talk about last time we jerked off, things like that. And so there's an element of accountability. That was good. We prayed for each other. That was good. There was a lot of good things, man, that we did together. And during this period of my life, I felt like I was stewarding, what was given to me. And I look back at some of these decisions and kind of this alternate personality that I was operating in, and I realized to an extent, I feel like I was living inauthentically. And I want you to hear me out here. Like, this is not a blow towards the church. This is just my personal story of how I lost myself in my pursuit of spirituality. While I'm sure there is some obvious blame that can be ascribed to this church and some of the ethics and principles that we were led to operate under, this is just, my personal story, like I said, of how I lost myself in that journey. In my pursuit of spirituality and of godliness, I became the very thing that I thought that I was running away from, and that was ego. As I look back, I know that my intentions were pure. I know that my friendships even were very real. To this day, I still keep in touch with many of the people that were a part of that community, but I can't help but think that there was this part of me that was wanting to manifest itself in a more authentic way. Maybe you can relate. Maybe you grew up in a similar situation where you felt shame around your sexual desires, or there was people that had talked down to you for certain behaviors of just your adolescence, your growth years. Or let's say you grew up in a very strict household where your parents didn't really give you much breathing room to make mistakes and to grow and to try out different things. Whatever it is, all of us have been in these situations where at some point our identity was challenged. And so we inevitably adapted to this setting or this version of ourselves that fit the mold of people's expectations for us. It could have been out of fear, it could have been out of control, their own naiveness, whatever it was. It's like all of us at some point have wandered, whether we realize it or not. And if I'm being honest, I can look back, I can introspect, I can recognize patterns, but it doesn't concern me so much as to how I got to that place. I'm at a point in my life now where it's like, okay, who am I evolving into? Who do I want to become? It's like, where do I go from here? How can I use my past trauma to shape and to leverage this person that I want to become? So tying this back together with MBTI, guys, Carl Jung's philosophy with all of this was a tool that was meant to be descriptive, not prescriptive. In other words, this was not the end all be all. This is not who you are at its core element. This is just your behavioral tendencies. His philosophy was not to box people in. It was to increase awareness of oneself. His aim was to help people become more aware of their unconscious tendencies so they could grow towards individuation. So it's this process of becoming whole, of the integrated self. And so much of our behavior is driven by this ego, this conscious sense of I. However, the shadow, the unconscious aspects of ourself, which include our repressed traits, this dark side of ourselves, and even our unresolved emotions, also deeply influence us. And so what I've come to realize is that growth requires a disidentification. Bruce Lee's philosophy is what comes to mind, and it's just be formless, empty the mind, become like water. You pour water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You pour water into a cup, it becomes the cup. It's like how many of us are trying to cling to labels and to titles Whenever we derive a sense of identity from the material, we set ourselves up for disappointment once that thing no longer serves us. And this is where self-perception theory comes in. You become who you observe yourself to be. So you're constantly evolving through these stories that you're telling yourself. And the reason that this becomes problematic is because our identity starts to become rigid through all this conditioning, that when we are presented with new information, we subconsciously begin to reject it because it no longer fits the paradigm of what we've been conditioned to believe. And so we resort to our old ways of thinking, our old beliefs, because there's this unconscious rejection of that which we do not already believe. So why do we do this? Man, who knows? I think it's much easier to have a fixed system in place. See, I think it's easier to believe what people are already believing. It's a fixed doctrine. It's very black and white. It's like everyone is teaching you what to believe in, but nobody's teaching you what you are. Half of personal growth is just realizing, man, you've been lied to about pretty much everything. And once you arrive at this place of just letting go, not feeling this pressure to prescribe meaning to every single thing, you start to see that this is just the starting place of your own journey, of your own story. So to evolve past your MBTI type is just recognizing that all of this does is just describe your behavioral tendencies. It's never your identity. The most valuable thing in what makes you you should only be up for you to decide. Integration is evolution. It's not abandonment. So much of this self-growth is just unlearning the conditioning of what you've been taught to believe about yourself. You know, we often think of our shadow as this dark nature, as something that is a part of us that is always going to be kind of in the background, something that we can't really see. We attribute our vices to the shadow, but the shadow is just as much a part of us as our conscious self. And so anytime that you are rejecting the shadow, you're actually rejecting yourself. There's a Greek restaurant that I went to growing up. My parents used to bring me there, and every time I tried to order one of their like signature dishes, this is like what they were known for, and I would want to make like a substitution. I don't know. It was like I wanted to sub the falafel out for like hummus. The server would just look at me like I was an idiot. So in fact, not only was my request denied, but it was actually viewed as an insult to the dish, to the culture. It's like, this is how this dish comes. If you don't like it, then don't order it. It's that kind of mentality. In the same way, it's like the shadow, you can't just give preference to the conscious, right? You can't just give preference to this one side of yourself while choosing to ignore the rest. The more that you try to suppress the shadow and the more that you try to keep it locked up in that closet, the louder and the darker it's going to start banging on that door to get out, man. And the reason that it's doing that is it's because it's trying to equate balance with the part of you that is conscious. So as we wrap up, to just tying this kind of all back together, embrace fluidity, reject rigidity. Your MBTI type is always going to be a starting place for you. It's always going to be there for you to reference, something that is a tool for you to better understand yourself, but learn to integrate your shadow so you can evolve past it. So anyways, we'll keep this one short. We'll just end it here. But yeah, I hope this encourages you guys. Feel free to leave a comment, give me a like if this video resonated with you, and we'll see you guys in the next one.